question for you. Have you ever used koji in your cooking or in your food? Let me know in the comments below right now. Konbanwa, Pat Tokuyama here, creator of All Day I Eat Like a Shark and the New Japanese Cooking Club. Today what we're going to be doing is we're using Komekoji for something called amakoji, which is literally sweet koji. Amai is sweet in Japanese, and koji is that magical mold that we can use for so many different things, including soy sauce, natto, miso, and various other fermented products. And today what we're going to be doing is making a sweet version of koji. So you may have heard of shiokoji, which is salt koji. You might have heard of shouyukoji, which is shoyu, soy sauce, with koji, komekoji. Also amazake. Amazake is literally sweet sake, and it's a drink that you might have enjoyed if you have ever visited Japan or you have a well-stocked Japanese grocery store. It tastes kind of like a sweet fermented beverage, and it actually doesn't have any alcohol in it, even though it's called amazake. Zake is sake in Japanese. So when you add something to the front part of a word, usually you'll change the pronunciation. So like shoyu becomes joyu when you add like wasabi joyu or nira joyu. That's usually something added to shoyu. And in this case, we're talking about sake, and we're making it sweet sake, so it's amazake. So that's your little language lesson for today. So I have all of my ingredients here ready to go as I usually do, and it's not going to be too much. All we need is about 100 mils of water. Actually, it should be 200 mils of water. Let me fix that right now. And 200 grams of komekoji, as well as 200 grams of brown rice. You can use any kind of rice that you would like. The important part is to keep everything in a 1:1:1 ratio. So 1 komekoji to 1 part water to 1 part of rice, cooked rice. So you can also use jasmine rice for a floral, nuanced flavor, or you could also use white rice. You could also use zakokumai, which is the rice that has been cooked with other grains like millet and some beans, for example. You could use glutinous rice as well, all of which will imbue a different flavor profile in the final product, amakoji. So what we're going to be doing is making sure that the temperature is at about 55 degrees Celsius, which is key for fermentation, because if it's too cold, it's actually not going to ferment, and it's going to be a little bit more acidic and not flavorful in a good way. And if it's too hot, it's actually going to kill the koji, and it's not going to be sweet. So it needs to be right at that 55 degrees Celsius, which I believe is about 130 degrees Fahrenheit. That's one of the reasons why I decided to invest in this Yogurtia. This is a Japanese yogurt maker. It's very small, and so it's perfect for a small kitchen like mine, and you can do all kinds of different things with it. I've made natto, I've made sourdough starter. You can do amakoji like we're doing today. You could also do amazake with it, and all kinds of other things that you could normally do with a yogurt maker, including making yogurt, of course. So thermometer is key. You need the yogurt maker to regulate the temperature. You can also do this with the rice maker that you have with the lid open. As long as the temperature is around 55 degrees Fahrenheit, you would be good to go. You just got to make sure to watch it closely in case the temperature fluctuates. While it's fermenting, we're going to do it for about 12 to 14-ish hours. You want to make sure to rotate it maybe 2 or 3 times during that time. I'm going to be doing it overnight, so I'm just going to do it maybe one more time before I go to sleep, and then tomorrow morning while it finishes. And that's just to ensure that all of the different parts of the mixture have fermented evenly, because you don't want any unfermented parts. It's not going to taste good. And after that, it'll be ready to use. So I use it usually for amazake as one of the most common ways and one of the easiest ways to use it. You just dilute the amakoji with the water in a 1:1 ratio, and that'll give you amazake. You could also use this to sweeten beverages. I like to use it to sweeten my fruit smoothies, and I'll show you. I think there might be a video coming up in the future sometime, potentially, wink, wink, and so stay tuned for that. You could also use it in yogurt or anything else that you would like something to be sweetened. And then the magical thing about this is that we're not using any sugar, so the komekoji is going to break down the naturally occurring carbohydrates into sugars from the rice. So cool thing, huh? First thing that we need to do is make sure that this is going to be about 60 degrees Celsius, and the reason for that is because we're going to be adding it to this, which is a little bit cooler, and this, which is probably lukewarm by this point. I'm changing it to Fahrenheit. See how this is doing. So this is at 36 degrees. See how this is doing. It's at 44. So I'm going to microwave this for a little bit and make sure that it gets hot enough, because we want this to be at around 55 to 60 degrees so that it gets activated. And then we're going to put everything together into this little thing. put on the lid and then let it ferment for 12 hours, and that's pretty much it. This is about 65 degrees Celsius. Now I'm just going to dump this in here and it'll cool off. And once we make sure that this is about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, then we can go ahead and add in the Komekoji. Also want to make sure that there's no big clumps of rice, otherwise it's also going to cause uneven fermentation. So see, it already cooled down. So I'm going to microwave this for about 30 seconds. Get that temperature up to 55, which is where we want it to be. And this thing's actually pretty accurate, which I like. I tried using my bread proofer to make natto, and that thing runs a little bit hotter towards the bottom than it does towards the top. Okay, so we just microwave that for about 15 seconds to make sure that the temperature is at about 55 degrees Celsius. And it's about 60. So now we're gonna have to wait for this to cool down a little bit before we add in this, because we don't want to kill the Komekoji, rather play things safe. All right, so I will see you back in a few minutes after it cools. Okay guys, so the brown rice and the water mixture has cooled, so it's exactly 60 degrees C right now. So we're gonna go ahead and drop in the Komekoji. And sometimes this is a little bit clumpy and it does have a lot of floury, dusty stuff that comes out. So try to be careful, try not to inhale. It'll make you sneeze. I don't know if you could see that, it's like all this fine particles. So as soon as this is evenly mixed, we'll go ahead and put it into this thing. And don't worry if you think that it looks like it's not wet enough. It's actually gonna break down and become a little bit more liquidy once the koji gets to work on the brown rice and the Komekoji itself. So just try to evenly mix this as good as you can. And you can actually already smell the aroma of the Amazake. That's going to be sort of how it tastes and smells. It's going to be a little bit more mild, especially after you let it rest for a few days. And one of the things that I would recommend, this is your first time making it, is to let the mixture ferment longer than you think it should, because if you don't, you might end up with an under-fermented mixture, which would be no good, which actually happened to me the first time I made it. So always go longer, because it's only going to get sweeter, but obviously not too long. All right, so this looks pretty good to me. I'm going to go ahead and put it in here now. All right, and if anything falls on your counter, unless you sterilized your counter with alcohol, don't put it back in, because you don't want the koji to be competing with other microorganisms, so you want to keep things as sterile as possible. And then also make sure that you have an even top surface on the top, so you get an even fermentation. Make sure that there's no gaps. Let's do that. Put the little lid on here, put it in here, actually screw the other lid on top, make sure that it's covered. And I already set this to 55 degrees Celsius and 12 hours. So we'll try to mix this in a couple hours, and then tomorrow morning when I wake up, and then it'll be just about done and ready to use. So see you guys tomorrow. Jana, bye bye. Not what you call. What's the blinking on that? The Benadryl's getting to